a book called I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zusak. It's about a 19-year-old boy named Ed Kennedy who gets messages from an anonymous person for him to deliver. Each one is a mission he must complete, written on an ace from a deck of cards. Reflecting back on my last 11 years at Hilltop, just like Ed, I had 4 main missions I need to complete to become who I am today. When my journey at Hilltop started in the Children's House, I was dealt my first ace. This was learning how to become a good friend. Now, this task was not the easiest to complete because at the age of 3, I didn't understand the concept of listening to others. But luckily, I started to meet this challenge through many hours around the peace table. Enough so that I learned to resolve my problems and realize that my emerging friendships were worth the price of being wrong, once in a while. 3 years later, when I moved to Lower L, I was dealt my next ace, the mission to share my creative voice. Harder than it sounds. I remember coming into first grade being scared to share my ideas in class and put my thoughts out in my poetry and artwork. But starting this mission was hard to avoid. Within my first 4 months, I had participated in a poetry performance, which included not only speaking, but also music and dance accompaniment, a couple of authors' teas, and a few Friday sharing sessions. Now, public expression is something I've come a long way with, and for that, I am proud. But still, not gonna lie, contributing to discussions has come up in more than a couple recent student-teacher conferences. My third ace came when I made the transition to Upper L. This was learning how to solve problems creatively. I was lucky enough to get a lot of practice. Not only was I in a work environment which allowed this, but also around people who are constantly problem solving. My 5th grade year, the Pinnacle, the camping cabin for the annual class trip, was closed for some reason or another. Instead of canceling the trip, we got creative. We hung tarps on Tom's sheep pasture to continue our adventure. This was the worst night of my life. We also had a weekly work called problem solving. Convenient, right? This consisted of different word problems and number games. I got really good at Sudoku. After all this practice, confronting looming problems seemed much less daunting. When I got to middle school, I kept working on all the missions I had received so far, but also received my final ace. This one took heart and I really had to dig in. It was seeing beyond my bubble. The middle school curriculum is based off the question, what does it mean to be human? Which means to fully complete it, you must look beyond yourself and at the bigger picture. But this was hard. I liked my bubble. The protection of being a majority in the small town of Brattleboro, Vermont, had screened me from the horrors plaguing America, such as racism, police brutality, and poverty. Yet last spring, I got on a plane to Alabama. We talked to people who had lived through the civil rights movement, and they challenged us to find our own way to change the world. It was those words which made me realize I can't and I don't want to stay in my bubble forever. I want to figure out how I can make a difference. After this experience, I'm saying thank you for this last mission, because that I wouldn't have known something must be done. Thank you for all these minutes. These life lessons I take with me as I journey beyond classrooms, beyond these to complete the next chapter of my life. Thank you to everyone who helped me complete the tasks for making me who I am today. Thank you to my teachers, who have done so much to help me. Thank you to my classmates, especially the ones in 8th grade, who have been with me through it all. Most importantly, thank you to parents, thank you for the late night hard early morning drives to school, and teachers at bagel. I don't say it, but it's supporting the world. But now, for a kind is a man. So finally, thank you and bye.
James, you're one of the funniest people in the class. You're so good at math, it's crazy. And you've never said anything mean to anybody this entire year. You are kind, you're compassionate, and you're caring, and we're really gonna miss you next year.
When I first came to Hilltop, I was in 2nd grade. I was so confused that I ended up getting lost in the only 2 halls of the school on my way to pick up. Despite this, it didn't take long for me to figure out how this new part of my world functioned. Not only were my surroundings different, but the people in them were too. I met Jay, Dan, Kirsten, and this weird guy called Dad. I also met my peers. I tended to avoid the older ones as they were basically twice as tall as me and thus quite intimidating. I also developed an interest in math, which would only grow as time went on. Although everything was new, I knew that I had to stay organized and keep things under control. At some point during my first year, I witnessed the Upperella Middle School plays. These were great performances, but I realized, wait a minute, these actors are great. I'm going to have to be a great actor. I'm going to have to memorize all those lines. I was doomed. So after 2 years of math and running chocolate factories in Haytown, I entered the Upper L. This brought in another group of changes. Now, Tom and Jen were my teachers, and I could sit in chairs during meetings. The pinnacle hike was approaching, which was a sort of rite of passage for me. It would be my first overnight school trip. I was a little nervous, a little excited, and in the end, it turned out great. Sure, hauling luggage up a mountain is a little straining, but, it was still awesome anyways. And then came the play. I witnessed 4 plays so far, and I thought it would be a ton of work. It was, but it wasn't that difficult. And it turns out being up on stage was just as fun as watching. Sure, there was a bit of messing up behind the scenes, but, that was all part of the fun. And then came the avalanche of events of 5th grade. My family was moving, I was going to have a baby sister, and there were like 3 new PE teachers over the course of 1 year. I did manage to survive and live until 6th grade. I had always looked up to the 6th graders. They were responsible for making a ton of decisions. I now had that freedom and that responsibility. I also learned about penguins that year. Penguins. And then finally, I was in middle school. I was at the top. I was the person that my little self used to be mildly scared of. I could swim in the pond now. I began to branch out and meet new people, some as far away as Alabama, and then the virus hit. My whole world was thrown into disorder, but I knew what to do. Stay calm and try to keep things organized. Did things happen that were out of my control? Yes. But sometimes you have to remember that there will always be a little bit of change in your life. I haven't just changed during my time at Hilltop. I've evolved. I've evolved to learn how to deal with chaos and at times accept it. Thank you.
Roxanne. She's always been there for everybody who needed her. She's always been there for everybody who needed her to help her do soccer, which I don't think she's ever lost a game. We hope. She's always been there for people who have asked her to help her for anything, and always been sorry, and she's never been mean. She's always been kind. She was actually the first person I actually saw here at this school. I walked up and I said, "Hi." She said hi back, which was great. I was a little scared at first. But she's always been really funny and kind to me and never said no, which is the biggest thing that I could ask for her. So thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you. When I first came to Hilltop, I didn't know much. I remember the first few days thinking that we really sat down a lot. And then there was the first upland trip. A little uncomfortable in the beginning, but as I started talking to people, it all went smoothly from there, and I began making friends. After the splashy phase of getting to know everyone, we jumped into the curriculum. Readings and assignments were tossed to us to do with them what we wanted. There were lectures, essays, reading assignments, language arts worksheets, science experiments, and seminars.
All of that led up to Alabama and the play. And then there was 8th grade, with a very different curriculum and lots of time in Upland. And then coronavirus. Online schooling has been weird, but not bad. And now we're here at the end of middle school. I think the one thing that my teachers and classmates have taught me over and over again is to think about other people. Think about what it's like in their shoes. Think about the people around you, the people you care about. I want to say that I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to come to this school, and I want to thank my family for always being here for me. I want to especially thank my classmates for being extremely kind and welcoming when I first came here, and for being great friends, putting up with my random stares and weird ways of moving. I'm super excited for high school. I think Hilltop has prepared me very well, and because of my experience going to a protest and learning about direct action, I'm excited for that in the future as well. I know I'm really going to miss this class, and I have had so much fun with all of you. Thank you.
Okay, Anna, your kindness is a joy to everyone around you. You were a community facilitator, and while you did that, you helped so many people. You're a great listener, and you're just a really fun person to be around. We're all really gonna miss you. Sorry, I kind of forgot the rest of that. It's okay. I'm nervous too.
Stop talking. I need to daydream. Those are the words I used when I was 5, and the words I am using now so as to invite you into my mind. Ever since I was in the children's house, I have always seen the world from my own perspective. When at school, I spent my time in 3 places, with Ellie and Marion, the practical life section, or somewhere very deep in a thought or daydream. It was in those daydreams that I discovered the traits that I so value now: loyalty, a sense of justice, and a general, thoughtful, tactile quirkiness. However, if I had not felt that I was in a safe and curious place, those traits that I value so much within myself may never have emerged. Now, as I'm sure you know, there are many difficulties with having multiple friends when you're little. There's always a serious power struggle with deciding who gets to choose what game we play. Solving problems like this required serious logic and generosity. While problems like this may seem inconsequential, being able to negotiate honestly, most of the time, and compromise has helped me resolve conflict and connect with people. These are skills that I used and expanded while in the middle school. They help me ask questions like, who do I want to negotiate with? Where do I want to see change? And how can I lend my voice to those who need it? Those questions have helped me define what loyalty and justice mean to me. In the lower L, I discovered one of my greatest challenges, my learning style. I never had to worry about accomplishing anything before, so the sudden expectations of being able to read and complete projects was terrifying. Reading just didn't make sense. It was like a secret language that everyone else knew but me. My daydreams were full of words, but my paper was blank. When I met Connie, and later on Wendy, they took all of my embarrassment and confusion and made reading fun and exciting. They were both so patient with me, and I can't express how grateful I am to both of them. Traditional learning has, at times, been extremely difficult, so having teachers who understood that I was still very smart and capable of learning has been so important to me, and has helped me apply my daydreams to reality. When in the middle school, the teachers there helped me discover my voice, and I am so thankful for Nora's energetic, heartfelt science lessons and random chats, Finn's perceptive way of teaching and spontaneous gummy bear-related school activities, Becky's understanding and patience with me and our class's unsolved mystery of Grace's theorem, and Paul's constant gusto.
encouraging our class to ask difficult questions, as well as his, his liberal exercise of pen throwing or occasionally table climbing mid-lecture. My last thank yous go to my family because no matter what has been going on at school, they have always been there for me. Whether I needed to talk about some random, goofy idea or I was going through something difficult, I have always had their love and support. So as I go out into the world, I feel ready. I am excited to dive into new questions and smile my way into people's lives, while remembering to actively stand up for my beliefs. I most certainly won't forget to leave plenty of room to daydream. Thank you. Bye. Oh, there's my best.
All right. So this is the 7th grade gift. I don't know how or who's been doing it, but there are no spoons or forks in the the middle school kitchen. So I got you a silverware set, and it's super classy. Oh, let's see it.
How cool. Yes.
Wait, I'm too big to it.
Yeah, okay, we'll grab it.
All right. I'm gonna sing a song now. Okay, well, it was kind of last minute, so I might have to use the lyrics. Yeah, I'm gonna sing We're Gonna Be Friends by the White Stripes. Everybody knows it, but... Fall is here, hear the yell, back to school, ring the bell, brand new shoes, walking blues, climb the fence, books and pens, I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Walk with me, Susie Lee, through the park and by the tree. We will rest upon the ground. Look at all the bugs we found. Safely walk to school without a sound. Safely walk to school without a sound. Here we are, no one else. We walk to school all by ourselves. There's dirt on our uniforms, chasing all the bugs and worms. We clean up and now it's time to learn. We clean up and now it's time to learn. Numbers, letters, learn to spell, nouns and books and show and tell. Playtime, we will throw the ball. Ooh, back to class, through the wall. Call. Teacher marks our height against the wall. Teacher marks our height against the wall. And we don't notice any time pass. We don't notice anything. We sit side by side in every class. Teacher thinks that I sound funny, but she likes the way you sing. Tonight I'll dream while I'm in bed, when silly thoughts run through my head about the bugs in the alphabet. And when I wake tomorrow, I'll bet that you and I together again. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Dear Ian, we will miss you. Your individuality was a pop of color in the class, and our community was way more well-rounded with you in it. You had the courage of your convictions, and you always spoke your mind. You always found something special in even the littlest things, and your skills on the basketball team will surely be missed next year. You were always your own person here, and we hope you continue your journey to be a musician. The world needs more music right now. We're gonna miss you.
Friends, classmates, teachers. When I came to the middle school in 7th grade, my academics were really quite good. But I only cared about my grades. I was incredibly unorganized, and I spent all my time on the device procrastinating. However, at the middle school, these skills were no longer acceptable. Your academic excellence was not judged by grades. Your positive work habits mattered a lot more, and the workload was larger and more rigorous. I could no longer continue to procrastinate and succeed. So I did the most logical thing. I got rid of the source of my procrastination. Yes, I, Ian Frederick Dodd, stopped the use of screens for all but my daily workload. And I can firmly say that that was the greatest decision of my life. In 7th grade, I used to dream up huge projects. I mean, they were really ambitious, they were really creative, they were supposed to be really beautiful, but the devices always got in the way and made me settle for a pretty mediocre, project. However, when I stopped using the devices, and really in many ways stopped caving into that horrible blue light, I could shoot to the sky with every project I did. In one example, I did a project on the local theater around here called the Latches Theater. Now, it was a poetry book, and it highlighted the architecture and the history of the local theater. And it was really ultimately very creative and very well researched. But that took a lot of time. But I think that that time was spent really enjoying the difficult and the difficult process of actually writing the book, and definitely not on the devices. And in the end, I had a fantastic book that I could be really proud of. So that was really great. I've also gotten interested in subjects that I never thought I would. I used to think that language arts, also known as English, was a very, very boring subject. However, with help from Finn, I began to love the English language, and that got me really interested in authors like Tolstoy, Hugo, and Shakespeare, along with verse like short story and poetry. Yeah. My organization has also improved tremendously. I can go into my binder and fetch a piece of paper right away, and I can tell you that made Paul really happy. It's also opened so many new doors for me, including even more interesting seminar discussions, more participation in my classes, and the knowledge gained each time I can actually write my notes down in a spiral notebook. These skills will all serve me so well when I continue to facilitate my academic growth and excellence at the Interlochen Arts Academy. I want to thank a few for helping me through this experience. First, thank you to my parents, my family, for being the strong foundation that I could always rely on. Thank you to my teachers for being the people that could water the seeds that would blossom into myself. And thank you to my classmates. I can proudly and lovingly call you all my friends. Okay, goodbye, Hilltop. Goodbye, teachers. Goodbye, parents. And goodbye, friends. It's been a hard but rewarding time. And thank you.
Dear Ava, from the beginning you were always a friendly face in a classroom full of strangers. You're my role model and I want to be just like you when I grow up. You're so smart and kind to everyone around you, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
Love you.
I came here 6 years ago in 3rd grade. The only thing I can remember was how everyone was obsessed with Frozen. I had already sung Let It Go a million times, and I didn't want to make it 1,000,001. My favorite character was Elsa, the girl who created an eternal storm in her kingdom and tried to escape it into a castle where she didn't have to think about it, putting herself in a bubble. I never knew I was in my own bubble until 7th grade. I had learned about the Civil War, but not much more, and I never really cared about it. Why should I have? It didn't concern me. It wasn't until 7th grade that I began to see outside my bubble into the real world, and what I saw scared me. In my remote castle in the woods, I didn't have to face the harsh realities of life outside my little town. When we went to Alabama, I learned what it was like for girls my age to go to school or church with a different skin color than me. I saw the racism and sexism that lives everywhere, including my little town. I wanted so badly to go back into my bubble, but I couldn't. I had gotten to the point of no return. The experiences I've had over the last 2 years has deepened the way I see the world around me. Through lectures, an odyssey to Alabama, protesting with my classmates, and even online school. These were experiences I could never dream I would ever have. Though it pains me to say goodbye, then I'm excited for my next journey. Walking away from this might be heartbreaking, but I know with this education, I feel ready to take on the world. I finally feel like I want to pop my bubble and do something about the pain I see around me. I have made deep connections with the world and the people around me, thanks to Paul, Finn, Becky, and Nora.
I've learned so much more than I ever thought I would. Thank you for making me who I am today. And thank you to the people I met along the way, especially my classmates. Thank you to you all. I've made some of the strongest connections I ever have. And thank you to my parents for everything you've done for me. And now, in a time where the world feels like it's crashing down around me, I feel I can finally do my part in holding it all together. Thank you.
Oliver, you've been such a great person this year. You were really good at soccer, and I really loved playing Jeopardy with you in math class this year. Your quiet observation, kindness, and joy will be greatly missed.
I wasn't really sure what to expect when I first came to Hilltop, so I only stuck around with a couple people I already knew. It was much more open and inclusive than where I had come from, but it still took me a while to find my place. I started getting used to things on our first upland trip, when I really started getting to know the people in the Hilltop community. Last year, we went on the Alabama trip. I loved the Alabama trip because we actually got to go and see some of the places where the civil rights actions we had been learning about all year had happened, and talk to some of the people that had been in them. This was very important to me and caused me to notice and understand a lot of the protests and things going on today. I'm very happy where I am now. I've learned a lot and met so many lovely people along the way. I'm happy where Hilltop has put me, and it has introduced me to so many new things. I've never been to a school as open and inclusive as this one, and I'm certain it has prepared me for high school. Thank you to my classmates who have gone through my middle school experience with me. Paul, Finn, Becky, and Nora, I've been so grateful to have you as my teachers. You've been so supportive and kind. Thank you. And I wouldn't have been able to go to Hilltop, or even known about Hilltop, if my parents and grandparents hadn't been there for me. Thank you so much. I'm going to miss Hilltop and the wonderful community. Thank you.
Okay, Django. Well, where to start? His Grace's theorem, x to the m over m equals x to the n over n?
Does. It does. For the
Or
record.
his funny biking video in which he portrays many personalities, including a slightly sane professor, by King, Carson, and many other people. His just creative voice, his art. Django truly has contributed so much to this class, and I really couldn't imagine the year without him. From his adamant views on the climate, which he goes forth and he puts himself out there to give the world, try to bring the world to a better place. He takes himself out of his comfort zone, puts his reputation on the line to do what he thinks is right. Thank you, Django. We'll miss you.
Man, dude, I want to hug you right now. The name's Grace. Django Grace. Where to begin? My time at Hilltop has only spanned 2 years. It began with a dazzled little 12-year-old who walked through those doors. He sat down in the circle, he looked around, and he was pretty sure that the next 2 years were going to be the most daunting, insane, demanding, and remarkable 2 years of his life so far. That opinion has changed. Yeah, now I'm definitely sure that these were the most daunting, insane, demanding, and remarkable 2 years of my life so far. They took that dazzled little 12-year-old's world and they turned it upside down. They knocked down borders in that world, redefined its limits. They redrew maps of it that he thought he'd memorized. They uprooted the jungle of usual and in its place sprouted a beautiful palace of unknown that he's still barely explored. They unlocked doors, hidden doors that he barely knew existed. I mean, not to brag, but I learned how to multiply binomials, wrote a poem about climate change, and almost landed a backflip on skis in the same day. Yeah, Hilltop has crossed so many things off my bucket list. On wings of readings and a complicated lattice work of notions, I was flown to places I never thought I'd go, to people I never thought I'd meet. I shook the hand of Dr. Reverend Bernard Lafayette Jr., a civil rights activist whose selfless work made it possible for the Selma movement to happen. I talked face to face with Bill McKibben, whose name will go down in history as a climate hero. We met Linda Blackman Lowry, the youngest person on the Selma voting rights marches. When I told her I cared about my world, she called me my future history-making leader. My life goal has become to prove her right. This has been a wonderful journey, but it would not have been possible without the people that held my hand along the way. Thank you to Tamara, Roselle, Lauren, and all the incredible people at admin for holding this family together. Thank you to Finn, Paul, Becky, and Nora for turning my world upside down. It was really scary at times, but I need you all to understand that you have changed my life. I'm part of another family too. Thank you to my super grandparents, Ona, Bempa, Grandpam, and Grandpeter. I often take it for granted how blessed I am to have you in my life. Thank you, guys. And finally, thank you to my parents and brother. Every step on this road, you guys have been there with me, and I'm so happy I got to share this with you. My favorite part of my time at Hilltop was not that my world was changed. Honestly, it wasn't even really about me. When that 12-year-old walked in that door and sat down in that circle, he didn't know it, but he became part of something bigger than himself. He became part of a family. And the adoption process was a little rough, and obviously we didn't all get along at times. But side by side, we've learned different things and changed in different ways. We have faced some of the hardest truths in history, but we have done it together. We share some of the most amazing, weird, crazy memories of all time, from a virtual Zoom tour of a pea factory or farm or pea operation, to fighting for our future at a climate rally, to laughing so hard we cried as leaky pipes dripped on our heads in Selma, Alabama. We've laughed, we've cried, we've sung, but we've done it together. And now I'm here to say goodbye. It feels like I just joined this family and now I have to go and let go. But I'm not going to. I'll say goodbye to this place, to the school, to the gym, to the grass, to the pond, to those weird little sculptures we have out front and that tadpole that no matter where you go, it stares at you. Try it, it's creepy. I'll even say goodbye to you all for a while. But say goodbye to Hilltop, to this beautiful new upside down world I've created and has been created for me, to my family. Never. I'm keeping you all right here in my heart. I'm keeping starlit haiku, bricks of Selma, squeaky basketball scrimmages, voices raised against climate chaos, hair-raising lectures by Paul where he spits in your face. It's really scary. Keeping your smiles. You all go right here. What's up, Finn? Once you're part of a family, you can't just leave. Thank you.
So the two of us have been going here for a really long time, and everybody's had a great experience, as you'll hear in these speeches. And we really want others to be able to have this experience.
And so everyone contributed a donation as soon-to-be alums. Thank you so much for all the school has done for us.
Yeah. So from the beginning of the year, when I first came here, Allie's one of our best friends, Magda, was here. Now I thought they were the same person, same age, and they were twins. Stay, like, come on. And I guess that didn't very go well for them, because next year, the beginning of the year, Allie didn't like me very much because of that. But thankfully that changed. And since then, we became very good friends. Allie's friends with everyone and everything, and she's nice to everyone. Thank you, Allie.
By the time I was in 4th grade, I was a mother. I was assigned 4 Peace Buddies and asked to adopt another. Peace Buddies were always a highlight of the year for me, until I started to get all the difficult ones. But now, looking back, I realize how much I learned from those mini monsters. One field day, Peace Buddy number 2 and I opened an equipment box and got attacked by a swarm of bees. We ran quickly from the bees to my top secret Band-Aid stash. I was only 11, but as I cared for my Peace Buddy, I was learning something about myself. I was learning the importance of connecting to other people. And that single insight highlighted to me how much better I learn through experiences of connecting to other people rather than a textbook. This year, visiting my elderly companion, Bill, I continued to connect and learn from him as if he was another Peace Buddy, except he was in his 90s. One time, I brought him one of my grandpa's calendars, which he appeared really happy about, until the next week, when he complained about a random calendar showing up at his room. Even though I was sometimes frustrated by his deafness and non-working memory, I still enjoyed being able to listen to his stories and share our wish list. Being a Peace Buddy and visiting the elderly were opportunities that made me discover how learning from first-hand personal connections helped my understanding way more than from reading. However, this discovery showed me something I was covering up. I actually couldn't read. For 4 years, I overcome my own reading challenges, which I'm so thankful for because of the volume of reading and writing in the middle school. In 7th grade, Wendy asked me to come talk to some younger students who were feeling embarrassed about their reading challenges. I told them how I also felt awkward when classmates asked me where I was during recess, and how it wasn't easy for me to say that I was getting tutoring. Or in preschool, when my speech therapist, Pat, came in and everyone saw. I felt ashamed. But as I was speaking to Wendy's younger students, it became a full circle moment. Those kids were me, and I were those kids. And that sense of connection is what I had been seeking for, and what Hilltop had provided me as long as I accepted their offer. In the case of having 4 Peace Buddies, challenge accepted. And I'm proud to say that by the time I was in 8th grade, I was willing to accept all manner of challenges, including documenting urine for a photo essay. Thank you to my teachers. You all look about 12 years older than when I first met you. Thank you to Wendy for teaching me how to read. Thank you to my siblings for the constant fight over who is the favorite child. Just saying that I'm in that #1 spot right now. Thank you to my grandparents. Even though you are not here today, you are the reason I am. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for everything, but especially helping me become the young woman I am today. Even though I was a mother here at Hilltop, I don't plan on being a real one anytime soon. Thanks to Becky. Even though it was fun while it lasted. The relationships I've made here, whether it was a mother, a peer, or a student, are some that I will cherish forever, and never forget how they have helped me become the connected, compassionate, and goofy person I am today. Thank you.
Ilona, I see a very bright future for you. As you showed us, you can really sing and you can really play the guitar. You are wonderful at art. I've never seen anyone who has as much raw talent as you. And I will always have you right here. And your impact will never be forgotten at Hilltop. So thank you.
I'm back. I'm about to deliver a speech, and you're smiling, and I'm freaking out, because there's no way I can fully capture my 6-year experience at Hilltop in a page. 6 years of laughter and frustration, of anger and hatred, friends, foes, adventures, and fails. And it all began outside the door of Upper L. Friends reunited, hugs and laughs and words I didn't understand. I'd arrived in America earlier that year from Germany. I was fluent in both languages, but couldn't spell neither of them. And I'd become pretty good at And that entire summer, I had tried to figure out America. Everything was loud and big and unapologetic, and I didn't understand it. At that point, I'd become pretty good at transitions. I knew how to make friends easily and learn the basics quickly. I usually could just blend right in. Teachers didn't care that I couldn't do most of my work or that I didn't understand what they were saying. But at Hilltop, these teachers cared, and I hated it. I really just wanted to disappear. Upper L slipped between my fingers. I was holding all this time and knowledge in my hands, heavy and scary, and I was weak under the weight of it. How I wished I could have just disappeared into the shadows again. But as the years continued, I began to find my voice again, through art and music and Jay's band class. The voice I had suffocated for so long was ripping through me. I had found myself. But a new fear snuck in. A fear of a new chapter. I had become so accustomed and safe in the Upper L environment, I had feared I'd have to start all over again. And I did. 7th grade was harder, and I had to think more, and I had to be part of this beautiful community that by the end of the year, I learned to love. So I learned, and I lost, and I learned more, and I cried, I laughed, I screamed, I died, I was born and reborn and died again. Flashes of Fannie Lou Hamer, water wheels, the Industrial Revolution, the Civil Rights Movement. I found I wasn't scared anymore of learning or pushing myself or asking questions. Though I set these huge expectations for myself, I couldn't catch up with me. But when the end of the year came and I looked back at all the accomplishments I had made, all the experiences and adventures, I saw my growth. I'd found my voice and I was going to sing my heart out. 8th grade seemed impossible. 8th grade seemed impossible, forbidden and dangerous and scary, and leadership haunted me. But as I slowly accustomed to the life of the 8th grade, I found its fierceness was wildly over-exaggerated. I was surrounded by the people I loved, doing and learning about the things I loved. Sophisticated dialogues about the future of our world, immersing myself in the climate disaster movement, growing as a student and as a human being. And it seems like time feels so slow until it's gone. And it seems like this is the end. And maybe in some ways it is. It's the end of a chapter. It's the end of some friendships. But as I stand here in front of you all, maybe fiddling nervously with my hands or tearing up, I remember that these memories will last forever, and that these couple of years have been the most important of my life. And I will always remember what I had here, and I will always remember who I became here. I'd like to thank Tom and Jen and Dan for loving me and understanding me through some of the most difficult years of my life. I want to thank Wendy for basically teaching me the English language. I want to thank Finn, Paul, Nora, and Becky for lighting a flame inside me that will never die. A huge thank you to my grandparents for letting me have this beautiful experience. I love you so much. And thank you to my parents for being so kind and so patient with me, and to my brother, and to my dog, and to whoever else wants to be thanked. I thank you. So I delivered a speech, and you're smiling, and I'm freaking out, because this is it. And I won't forget you, even when I'm rich and famous. I will never forget you.
Marion, it was, you always had an opinion, and it was, like, sometimes you didn't share it, but you still had opinions, and you're nice, and I'm freaking out, but, you were nice, and you would always talk to people, and I'm gonna miss you.
Don't make me cry before my speech. When we began writing speeches, a peer said that they could reflect not only on our time at Hilltop, but our entire life up to now. The thing is that for me, my entire life has been Hilltop. I've been going to this school since age 3, about 11 years ago. On a school trip that year, which was canceled for snow, Ellie, Annalisa, and I were the only ones who showed up. Ever since then, we've been there for each other. They are 2 of the closest friends I have, and I am terrified of having to go to school without them. In 3rd grade, I met Ava, and in 4th, Alona. Every moment at school has been shared with the 4 of them, and I can't think of better people to walk through life with. In Children's House, I read all the time, to the point where they had to bring books for me from the lower L. Kids constantly came up to me asking how to spell different words. I felt special. I felt important. That was one of the first lessons I learned here, that I can be important. In lower L, I was having a lot of trouble with anger. I was the sensitive one, and that was when people started to say mean things because they knew it would get under my skin. This was also when they started teaching us about emotions. I always thought that format was stupid, but I think it probably taught me, at least subconsciously, how to use language well in arguments. In upper L, the getting under my skin was reaching a boiling point. I was getting picked on almost every day. But one time, I finally stood up to someone for how idiotic their insults were. It sort of shut them down. They started mimicking what I said, which just made me realize even more how dumb this antagonizing was. Looking back on it now, it's even more stupid. That's another lesson. Some of the things that are the worst will seem so small in just a year or 2. Things change. It's hard to pick one lesson for the middle school. There are way too many. One of the most important ones, I think, is to get my voice out there. Whether it's racial justice, feminism, LGBTQ+ rights, or anything else, I need to get my voice heard. To quote a wonderful woman I met in Alabama, I am the most important piece. Before I end this speech, I have to thank some people. Thank you, Nora, who has taught me so much about science, some of which I would never have been interested in without her humor and interesting lessons. Thank you, Finn, who has helped me to write beautifully and to understand the 12 tenses. I still don't understand why there have to be 12 tenses, but I can identify them now. Thank you, Becky, who has helped me to be more excited about math than ever before. I'll miss us being nerdy together. Thank you, Paul, who's been there since he was stealing me away from my parents as a baby. He's taught me so much about what it means to be human. Thank you, Mom and Dad, who I quite literally would not be here without. You've helped me through breakdowns with hard math problems and given me a great sister who is both the most precious thing in the world to me and the burden of my existence. I am the person I am today because of this school. Without all my teachers, I have no idea who I'd be. I am this place. I grew up in these halls. How am I supposed to leave? I've been writing and rewriting this speech in my head for 11 years. I've never been completely satisfied with it, but I don't think I could be no matter what I wrote. Nothing can put this into words. I'm leaving my whole life. So goodbye, everyone. I'll always carry a piece of you with me. Even if in a couple of decades I don't remember your names, you'll always have a lasting effect on me. Part of the reason I've been dreading this is because it can't look like what I want it to. But I think most of it is because I don't know how to say goodbye. But I have to go whether I like it or not. I know that everything I've done has been preparing me for it. Though I don't feel it, I must be ready. So I'll take a leap of faith, trusting that everything I've learned will be enough. Here I go.
Ben was the person when I first came here, was the person that was like my shadow. Shadow didn't really work well for me because supposedly shadows don't talk. And I talked to him a lot. And he showed me around the school. I guess he showed everyone around the school. And he's always been there for everyone. He's talked to everyone. And even like he didn't agree with that person, he really was kind to them. Even with their different opinion, their different voice, their different viewpoints, he's there for you. And he always will be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Life at Hilltop began with Cheryl, 11 years ago in the Birch Room, with the fireman phase in full force. The fire department came to visit while I was in the Birch Room and told me to call 911. I like to think I can take my learning seriously, but didn't comprehend the only if there's an emergency part. So seconds after putting down the phone with the nice lady who was asking how I was on the other end, there was a state trooper flying up our driveway with lights and sirens. At least I got a tour of a police car from that experience. Actually, I got something else as well. Now I can comprehend that being the person who comes to help when someone is vulnerable and at their lowest low resonates deeply with me. Feelings of honor, reliability, and trust have forever defined values shown through the identity of my different phases. After 3 years of being with Cheryl in the Birch Room, my interest in becoming a fireman evolved. As I moved through lower and upper elementary, I became interested in becoming a police officer, then an army man, still attracted to the idea of being someone who could have a positive impact on this world. Now wanting to be both a pilot and an emergency room doctor, that dream of being able to support others is still very strong. Middle school arrived swiftly, and through the study of people of color in this country and the civil rights movement, I woke from the soft haze of ignorance into the reality we really face. Alabama changed my life. Hearing about chronic generational poverty is one thing, but it is incomprehensible until seeing the way so many disadvantaged people live in the hearts of Birmingham and Selma. Even though this poverty is present in our own community, I had to see it elsewhere to understand the vastness of its presence. I will never lose the images and awareness I now possess from my time in Alabama. Like many unforgettable ideas, they will forever inform how I live my life. So thank you to Paul, Finn, Becky, and Nora for making every day of these last 2 years something special. Thank you to my grandparents who made it possible for me to come here these last 11 years and supported me by attending almost every Grandparents' Day. Thank you to all my classmates, many of whom have accompanied me for over a decade. Thank you to all the staff, administration, and faculty who have seen me transform through the many different phases on this journey. And most importantly, thank you to my parents, who have been with me and by my side every stage of these last 11 years. Hilltop, this community of people, has prepared me well for the future, instilling the confidence to pursue anything while taking to heart all aspects of our complicated world. Throughout my time here, I have always been guided to think critically and figure out where I stand. This is a value I have taken to heart, especially these last 2 years, while having to reevaluate my place as a human in this world where we are faced with inhumane inequality and a changing climate. In this unorthodox departure, I am saddened to be leaving these faces, many of which I've seen for over 11 years. This once-in-a-lifetime class missed the Boston Odyssey and our last overnight trip to Upland. But I can assure you, with all these bright faces, that the Hilltop Montessori Middle School class of Corona made the most out of our last 3 months. Thank you, and good night.
be a wonderful day when we can take these and throw them into the air, won't it? So our night of not being remote, of not being distant or virtual is here. And we're just so happy and proud of this class of 2020 and all they were able to do in this really challenging time and the way they rose in this 7th grade as it rises, as our life continues. So thank you. And we are going to celebrate this with the occasion of diplomas. So what we'll do in this case is that one of us will call a name. Will come from the basket. You'll come up, we'll hand it as discreetly as we possibly can, and hug you in our own way. Okay? So we're going to start. Benjamin Berg.
Thank you.
Long way you run.
James Burke.
Allie Ford.
Roxanne Burt.
Ellie, a little harder. Well done.
Marianne Wojcik.
Django Grace.
Ava Rosenzweig Davidovich.
Oliver Herrick. Well done, Oliver.
Ian Dodd.
Annalisa Fedoruk. Well done.
Elona Shaul. The class of 2020!